I was shocked that even though I did all these global IPOs for these global companies, I could not help my friends.
Thanks for agreeing for this interview.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's really our honor and our pleasure to be here with you.
Mhm.
A brief introduction about what GoodWhale is. GoodWhale, what we aim to do is a financial company app to journey along with our followers, our new users from 0 to 1 and maybe towards their multi-millionaire status. A lot of things that we have faced previously or in our journey of educating, we find that a lot of investors, their initial journey of investing is very tough because the foundation is not there yet.
Okay.
What we find out we like to do for GoodWhale is we like to start from their personal finance journey up to their investing from different investment vehicles that they have. Along their journey, people who have at different stages. So we like to journey along this with them.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of the things that we find along our discovery journey, we also find that investing is quite lonely if they do it alone. So we like to build a community around. That's why we find, why not we create a series for them to journey along. So there's come about this series, we call it Ask My Leader.
Okay.
So Ask My Leader is a series that we get inspiration from the Diary of a CEO. We find this is a good way for people to learn about things in life. But of course, the main message we want to drive across is really how to improve their investing journey. While we're talking to leaders like you have experience in building the company, building the people. Can I get some of the knowledge of building my career as well? And of course, there are some entrepreneurs, they like to build their business. So we also like to get some of the experience and knowledge from you so that we can share with our listeners.
Sure.
And hopefully new listener. I'd like to start with from the very beginning. What is the most memorable moments in your teenage or even your kids' years that drive you towards what you are right now?
Okay, sure. So I come from, thankfully, a family of entrepreneurs. So family business is in cranes. Father is a businessman. So the value of savings and the emphasis on creating value for society has always been there from young. I still remember the first time I told my parents that I got into university, which is apparently a very big thing. My dad said, "So what? Give me money." So that was an example of how it's not about what you have on paper, but it's really whether as a person you can really bring value to society. And I brought that along with me into university where I met good friends who were trying to create value, create new businesses. And businesses, they are not inanimate companies. They're actually enablers of employment. And remembering that private companies are the backbone of societies, they generate the most number of jobs.
Yeah, SMEs.
SMEs. But yet we realized very quickly that a lot of people didn't have access to the knowledge, exactly what you say, right? How do you fundraise? How do you, after a certain scale, how do you bring the company to the next level? And that was when, because of the privilege I had in starting my career in an investment bank with JP Morgan, whereby I did a lot of IPOs, I did Manchester United's IPO. I could then learn from that experience and hopefully help some of my friends who were starting companies all the way back in 2009, 2010. That's when the first wave of this latest wave of a startup started coming into market. Then I really was shocked that even though I did all these global IPOs for these global companies, I could not help my friends who were raising money here. So that was my start.
That's the dream job that every business school student would like to get, which is investment banking like JP Morgan that you are in. So what's have changed your mind then?
I think it's about the same as what I mentioned, the value I'm creating for society, right? I couldn't help my friends even though I had this background, this knowledge. And if I believe that the nation, our most valuable resource as a small country are the people, then entrepreneurship should be encouraged and enabled, right? And therefore, if I don't help the next generation entrepreneurs come out, then who will be the ones creating innovation? Why would anyone take a risk, start a company with friends from school rather than work for a company? Because there's no infrastructure supporting that capital markets journey. I think it was a point you raised earlier behind the scenes, whereby we mentioned that a lot of the public companies that you are given the opportunity to invest in today, they're not as relevant and relatable to to us, our generation, and more importantly, the selection of companies, right? They're getting lesser. More companies are staying private longer,
Yeah.
and less companies are publicly accessible now.
Yeah.
What happens in that situation? Because less and less choice to choose from, right?
Yeah. It reminds me back in my days as a broker, right? A lot of listed companies are don't know how many years old. It's like very traditional name like CDL, DBS, all the big names are there. There are companies that are very long in the history, but it doesn't strike a relevance to I said younger people.
It doesn't pull on your heartstrings.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, they are there, so what?
Yeah. So it's exactly that. So relevance, but really it's also thinking about the point to the audience here, right? The relevance to us is lesser. But how about the opportunity to make a profit or money, right? If companies are staying private longer, most of the upside is made when the company exits.
Yeah.
If you are the only investing in a company when they IPO, then you're catching the falling knife already. Statistically, maybe 20 years ago, average age of a company when they went public, you want to make a guess? Average age of a company globally, yeah, when they go public.
Go public.
So that you can
20,
invest in
10, 20
no,
years.
5.5 years average age of a company. So Google, all these tech companies, right? So when they go public, still a lot more upside.
Yeah.
Right? You know what's the average age of a company today? Globally, not just Singapore.
Those who survive one,
Yes, and those who survive.
40, 50, even 60 years old.
By the time a company goes public today, IPO, the average age of these companies is 12.5 years.
Okay.
So between 5.5 and 12.5, who made the money? Is it the regular investor like us? Or is it someone else?
Yeah, someone who have access to this.
You see the super rich people. Then when they sell at the IPO, they sell their shares. Who are they selling to? They're selling to us. We're buying it. Isn't that really silly? So that is what we're trying to do. So can we bring more of these products, the best performing asset class, which is private equity, which employs the most number of people in most societies? Can we bring that asset class that has relevance to us, that pulls on our heartstrings, we see, feel, touch every day, but we can't invest in them? And they, because they're staying private longer, they have no access to capital markets. So can we marry the two groups of people together? And that's how our journey started.
I know that you guys started since 2016. So right now it's close to 8 years. So from 2016 to right now, there's a lot of changes in the market or even COVID.
Yeah.
So like throughout these years, is there any things that you find like challenge or stuff that you guys need to pivot?
Okay, so I mean, we have to react with the market, right? As the market matures. So, you know, that wave of companies I mentioned earlier, the initial startups, they are now growth stage, maybe even late stage, some of them. So the requirements for them, the kind of support they are asking us for has also changed, right? From primary fundraising to raise money for them, now it becomes helping the early investors sell. Recently, we listed one of the largest insurance companies in Singapore called NTUC Income. For many decades, they were not listed, right? And they are still not listed. Today, some of these shareholders that were locked in for so many years, so many decades, retirees, they can now sell their shares, which were worth some money on paper, through the exchange, and really cash out. So take profit from the years of labor they put into building NTUC Income, right? So that's an example. How do we then cater our products, our understanding to serving different stage of life of different companies, and yet scaling relevance, right? Number one. So number two, COVID was interesting. It was actually the years we were obviously very scared, very worried when we went into COVID, right? But they were the years that taught us the most as well. Also the years we turned profitable, which taught us focus, taught us how to serve the right segment of customers. And so today we have 32,000 investors on our exchange. This is just within the Alta brokerage ecosystem. But now if you layer on the other brokerage houses, you mentioned Philip Securities, some of the other traditional brokerage houses, right? They plug in their clients and their companies into the exchange with over 1 million. So it was through COVID that we realized actually that's a better way to grow, because then we don't have to burn money to acquire. From 32,000 to 1 million, that's a lot of CAC, right? So when you have limited resources, when you are forced to think about survival during COVID, I think that's where real innovation happens.
So yeah, so it's like, I think you see things like very positively.
No lie.
Even COVID is a challenge. Like COVID, we almost, what to do next, but you always see opportunities in all those challenges. Is there any moment in a period, or maybe your banker period, or right now your business period, is there any moment whereby there's always challenges, there's like a dark periods that you need to go through? Yeah, is there any this kind of periods?
Every day, I think, as an entrepreneur, as most entrepreneurs know, you're faced with more bad news than good news, usually. And over time, the bad news become white noise. And I think what keeps us going is that purpose. And that purpose, some of us are religious, so it's purpose-driven mission. But for the rest, it's really about the impact that we're making, right? And that keeps us true to our North Star, I feel. And with that purpose, I think one foot in front of the other, we keep moving. And then with regards to decision making, no one knows whether you're right or wrong. You're just hoping that you're making more right choices than wrong.
Yeah.
And you mentioned 8 years already, it's been quite a journey. That also is double-edged swords. I think most people start businesses with a bit of optimism, but a lot of naivety. And that's the only reason why you start a company. Without optimism and naivety, you won't start. Now, as we grow older, there is more realism. A lot more people relying on us to make the right call, sometimes left or right, turn left, turn right, go straight. And therefore, the opportunity cost of making a wrong choice is much higher than at the start. So navigating in this environment is different now. So a lot more considerations, a lot more time taken to make decisions, which is different from us. It's startup, more nimble. Just take it only affects how
let's do it.
Let's do it. Right now, it's affect a lot of hundreds of people. So we have to be a bit more thoughtful in making this the right calls.
So along this journey, just now you said North Star, right? Would you ever question your North Stars? Should I continue to pursue this North Star, or should I just maybe this is not the right one?
Oh no, it took us a really long time to get to a North Star. So a North Star for us is something that can never be realized, but it's a vision that we want to keep striving towards. So it's the why, right? The how we get to and the what we do will change along the way. So we change the how and the what, but we never ever change the why. And that why, to me, drives the spirit of the company, and as an extension, if we succeed, the spirit of the nation. And the jobs are created because of that. If everybody say, I know this exchange problem, SGX will solve it, or government, so let's just wait. Let's wait 10 years later, see what happens. There'll be no one trying to list on the exchange, and no one trying to do entrepreneurship anymore, right? And there's countries around us that have very bad capital markets, no exchange. Let's look at around you, there are no entrepreneurs there. Just work for petroleum companies, right? Collect your paycheck. So your social hierarchy will be fixed somewhat. It's no longer meritocratic, right? There'll be no need for innovation. Is that a country that you want?
I guess the way that you have brought up always creating value still holds true for you, which is your North Star of creating value for.
Well, that's my personal North Star.
It's very huge. It's for the country, we need more entrepreneurship.
It's exciting enough to get us up in the morning. No pun intended.
For the North Stars that you have, then I'd like to understand, is there any frameworks that you get to do or your daily life? Like how do you work on your how and what's then?
The how and what, okay, so the why is important. Start with why, right? Then why, the how and what subsequently, I believe that my way of management has always been to empower, because if you don't empower, you cannot grow. Right? And to empower, you need to have trust in the leaders you choose to lead different businesses. We have a couple of different business units today, and therefore, if you are aligned based on the vision, how and what they do to get there should theoretically be up to them. So I spend a lot of time managing people and hiring the right person to lead those businesses. So the frameworks I use will be to help me either bucket someone's management style and then look for the weak spots in their management style to see whether should I send that person for more training, or should I have more mentoring sessions with the person, right, to increase either the fit or the not productivity, but like the performance, which is a different thing. Fit and performance is a different thing. And so those frameworks, I feel, helps me work on the business as opposed to work in the business. Because if I work in the business, then I don't have the ability to work on the business.
Then you'll be very busy every day.
Correct. Which doesn't help not just me, but doesn't help the entire company. So then I'll just be in the boat as the boat is sinking, as opposed to trying to help the boat from sinking from outside the boat.
Wow.
That's something I'm always working on.
Wow. It reminds me about the book Start With Why, leadership. Like I can see there's a lot of nurturings that you bring upon the people, level them out so that they can build a better good. So if in the end align to your greatest why, is very admirable. And maybe a bit upon what is like Alta, alternative investment, because it's not really accessible to men on the streets. Like maybe people who are just
actually in Malaysia, you're
is
from
it-
Malaysia, right?
yeah.
Malaysia is accessible to retail investors.
Really? Okay. But what I see right here, maybe the awareness and exposure is not there yet. Because for like men on the streets, when we talk about alternative investment, right, they will talk about like Pokemon card or maybe whiskey, wine, Rolex. So these are the alternative investments that we are more exposed to. What is your definition of alternative investment?
Okay, so Alta firstly stands for alternative assets for all, not OTA, but Alta. When we think about alternatives, basically it's everything else that is currently listed or accessible for people to invest in. So apart from your public companies, there is actually the rest of the iceberg, which is much deeper. And we can see, feel, touch their products, but we've never been able to invest in them, right? And just historically, it's the best performing asset class, but historically reserved for the rich, right? And the institutional investors to invest in. And at this point in time, most of us will think, actually, my small little amount of money, how much can I influence? But it's been 8 years. When we first started, there was no data to help us. Recently, I think last year, McKinsey and Bain, two of the big consulting houses, released a market study to describe or estimate how large our individual pockets of capital could mean to the entire asset management industry, right? So if you think about this circle, if you're in between us, circle, as the entire world's pool of capital, entire world, approximately half the circle, all the institutional capital. So sovereign wealth funds, insurance companies, corporate, these are all the big money you imagine, all the big insurance companies, not us, but the other half is actually us. So we're as big thing about which one is the one that's growing. The growing segment is actually, in Asia especially, it's all the family offices, which is us, and the mass affluent, right? And as the first half of the circle, institutional capital, they are reducing their exposure. As an example, Temasek, majority of their portfolio, today they disclosed recently, it's actually in privates. Majority already, right? They cannot maybe do more. But the other half, which is us, we actually don't have exposure to the best performing asset class, which is normally reserved for funds like Temasek. So we actually can do more, should do more. In everyone's portfolio, based on studies, I think we should have at least 12 to 15% of our own portfolio into alternatives. How much do you have?
I don't have exposure.
I'll open an account for you today.
Okay.
But yeah, you then will be able to access the rest of the iceberg. So you're right, from companies like NTUC Income, right? So insurance companies, stable, you recognize it, their shares, all the way to, you mentioned the rare whiskeys, rare wine, rare art. We have US brand name companies, SpaceX, OpenAI, all this know. Do you want to wait 10 years by the time you go public before you invest, or you only invest today?
The moment I know about OpenAI, I want to them.
Yeah. But then you see, there's OpenAI that there's also XAI today, which is Elon Musk's AI company. So basically, all these will never make it to it. But now we can. So that's what I mean by alternative assets, right? The whole world, for all. The only thing we don't do is crypto. So we do not do crypto. And I think that is the big distinction. We only do securities, right? How we do it, as an example with NTUC Income, is that we can actually tokenize their shares. So create a token, which is 1:1 for a share of NTUC Income, as an example, and enable investors to trade it. And cheaper and faster.
There's a lot of like opportunity to invest in, like, so you call it before IPO, early stage. And then, wow, it really interests me. Let's say if like OpenAI is accessible, or even companies that are not listed, that the youngsters are using.
Discord.
Yeah, Discord.
Swag.
Yeah. Or even, I don't know, maybe
Epic Games.
SGAP, they want to list their company.
Oh yes, I will talk to you.
So it's, whoa, imagine
Do you want SGAP?
Yeah, Xiaoming.
Okay.
Yeah, we also have
text him now.
Xiaoming. Yeah, even TDK, all these younger brands, which is more relevant to the younger crowd right here.
TDK
see
is a
there's-
cassette brand, no?
No, it's not a TDK, the Daily Catch Up. They are also a new media companies. So there's a lot of more closers that we recognize. That is there an opportunity that we can also be part of them? Yeah. So it's not like a traditional listed company like Microsoft, whatever. We have also opportunity to look into this younger
Yeah.
company, which is, I don't know, maybe have a higher potential. Yeah. But in terms of like investing, do you see, is there gap in your like pool of investors when they invest? Is there any gap that you find we need to address or bridge?
Always. So I think you must think about it as our region. So beyond Singapore. Right? Singapore's population pyramid is like that. And so it's getting smaller. Right? And then countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, it's like that.
Yeah.
Malaysia even, right? And that mass market segment, right? I think is the reason why as a collective ASEAN is to be reckoned with. But if it's just Singapore, I think it might be a bit too small to influence, right? So that gap in the segment is basically how do we get more of these next generation investors, right? Who don't have a stock trading account today. And it's one of the reasons, many reasons why our public exchanges, not just Singapore, but other elsewhere, are dealing with issues whereby if you are a growth company, so you are investing your money in the future, capex, as opposed to using the money you earn today to pay out dividends, which is a yield company, you will not want to go listing. Because the old investors, old generation investors, they prefer you to, hey, don't invest so much, give me my dividends.
Yeah.
But the young investors, the only thing we have is not money, the only thing we have is time.
Yeah.
Hopefully, most of us. And with time, the only thing you can do is basically bet on the future. You hope someone is doing it on our behalf already. And you don't really need the cash today.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. So that's the gap, that education gap. We need to get the next generation to understand why if you don't invest in the future of the future generation companies, who's going to build it for you?
Yeah.
Right? That's a scary part. And it's not just Singapore, it's the whole region.
So I think what you brought up point is really education, letting them know or sharing them knowledge of what investing should be about or can be about for them. Yeah. Because even if right now I went to some of the AGM in Singapore, all the shareholders are, where's my dividend? Why my dividends are so low? Yeah. So even
time horizon different.
Yeah.
They want the cash today, man. The NTUC income shareholders who are selling, they mostly want to retire. Right? But then we need both, right? A balance between the old generation and new generation.
Yeah, so bridging the gap whereby having them to expose to different type of investments is really crucial. And also happy that Funnel provide this another side of opportunities that I couldn't get. Yeah, and I hope I can get more.
That's why we rebranded from Funnel to Alta.
Yeah, Alta.
So become more mass market.
Is there any exciting stuff that Alta are preparing to share with users or your clientele?
We were really excited about listing of NTUC income. This is a monthly liquidity program. It's evergreen. So anytime you want to invest in NTUC income, largest insurance company here and growing in Southeast Asia as well, they own Trust Bank, etc. You now have the chance to do. So that's one example. We have, as I mentioned, some of the new generation of companies, XAI, which is Elon Musk's AI company. We have Discord, Epic Games, all these new generation companies, all here. And Twitter, we have Stripe. No one actually can deny the value that they're creating in society. Right now, how do we be part of it before they go listing? Obviously, we have the rare assets, real world assets that everybody's talking about, rare whiskey, rare wines, rare art, right? How do we align our passion, as you said, for whiskeys or art with our investment interests? So that's something that we are always on the lookout for education partners to educate investors.
Yeah, we can be the educational partner.
Yeah. If you want GCBs, we have all these things.
Oh, you mean part of GCP?
Yes.
Whoa.
Securitized.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that will interest quite a bit of people, right? I aspire to own a GCP, but may not have the
one thing I would say, though, this common nagging that we have from parents, whereby they say the best thing you can do with your money is buy a house. Or real estate. And there may be some truth to that for certain core districts, right, prime districts. But because, at least in the context of Singapore, we went from third world to first. Right? So parents who bought real estate earlier on did get that valuation uplift and they managed to cash out. So obviously, from their point of view, it's, oh yeah, you should do the same. But now, as the second highest GDP country in the world, are we investing in the right time at a high, and is our GDP, which is income per capita, right, going to grow up as high so that the next 10 years, someone else is going to buy our real estate out at an even higher price. So I'm not sure about that. And recently, personally, I've also been doing a lot of fund investments. Private credit fund has been a big theme. Being able, as an example, to invest instead of a fixed deposit, which most of us get 1-2%, but luckily I'm getting about 10+% with one of the largest private market funds in the US called Hamilton Lane. And their fund basically has a private credit fund, and they do senior secured first lien, so very secure type lending to portfolio companies from top tier fund managers globally, like the Blackstone, the KKR, those kind of companies. They borrow from this Hamilton Lane private credit fund.
Wow.
And it's giving you about 10% quarterly dividends distribution, which you compare it side by side to the GCB I mentioned earlier, right? From an investment portfolio point of view, this might be easier to manage than a GCB.
And 10% sounds a lot more attractive. So just now you have mentioned like technicality on how all the funds work behind. I think that there's even our own community will have some trouble understanding it. So like maybe we have another opportunity to ask a lot more about this structures type, but I think the fact that the 10% would really interest a lot of like our community, because there's already a pool of people asking, like, can I invest in a Singapore saving bond, 3-4%? And they are every time go and bid for the 3-4%. But there's a lot more other opportunities.
Everyone's risk preference is different. Risk tolerance is always about risk reward. High risk, high reward, low risk, low reward, right? And besides this private credit fund, which people who know Hamilton Lane knows that their asset under management globally, it's around 857 billion AUM, which is very big, larger than even some of the sovereign wealth funds in the world. And that fund, that particular strategy that I'm talking about, will only serve and appeal to certain type of people, right? And for us, we have other things like I mentioned Singapore government bonds, right? We also have infrastructure, right? So infrastructure projects, loans. So you want to build a highway, those kind of loans can actually also allow people to invest in these projects at 6 to 8%. So what I'm trying to say is that there are other options, just that your exposure as regular people, we have always been told that it's just the same few things. So the rest of the iceberg actually can be quite exciting as well.
So for people who are new to investing or even to alternative investing, so what is your suggestion and advice to them then? I'm new.
Subscribe to GoodWhale and learn from peers. Try a little bit. We are not asking you to put everything into an alternative. That doesn't make sense as well. I mentioned most people should get 12 to 15%, not 100%, right? And diversification is key, which is why I do funds, right? I don't do direct investment to one single company. My friend open restaurant, borrow money. Those are terrible investments. They're not even investments. They're like this, friendship, different thing, right? It's friendship and investment is different thing.
Just for supporting.
So I think most of us, our only exposure to private investment last time has always been, or in the past has always been, your friends start a restaurant and ask us to chip in. To us, that was as far as you could get for private equity, but that's not investment.
One of the things that happen out there, especially when I interact with the youngsters, like the 19, 20 years old one, I ask them, like, when you invest, like what do you invest? They say, I just buy Bitcoin. I just buy Ether. So how do you see this space compared to Alta?
So I think Bitcoin and Ether, they're both cryptocurrencies. So to us, it's a currency, it's a method of payment. Right? For what, right? For product. You can also do FX investment. You can buy US dollar or whatever. Right? So that to us, there's a means of payment for securities, which are what's on our products. So it could be security tokens of rare whiskey, rare wine, rare art companies, right? So you can actually use crypto, Ether or Bitcoin to pay for securities. So we are the underlying. So that's the difference though.
So let's say there's this young person asking, I think I buy like Ether or even some of the coins is the way to go, because I see myself 10 years, 20 years down the road. I will be investing in them. Why I should investing in so-called old school
securities
for them? Old school securities for them.
It's a good question, but it's also time horizon and risk appetite, right? So crypto or currencies in general are more speculative in nature, so they are more volatile, up and down, right? Heart attack every day. So as you get older, hopefully you don't want that heart attack moment every day. And currency depends on supply demand for sure, right? And any currency, be it crypto or be it traditional central bank currencies, they're all dependent on supply demand. For companies or the more traditional forms of security, I think there are fundamentals, right? Which is either you mentioned discounted cash flow, value investment. There is a basis for the valuation apart from supply and demand,
Yeah.
right? So there will be, I think, users for certain cryptocurrencies, right? Users, so there's real demand for it in order to use those currencies. But for a lot of the other coins out there, cryptocurrency coins, there may not be as many real users. And when that happens, there could be a risk involved in putting all your monies or a lot of your investment into speculative currencies with very little real use cases.
Yeah. Okay. Just now you shared me a very important point, which is the underlying, the fundamentals of the vehicles that when we invest, we always need to understand, which is why is there this Bitcoin? Like, what is the purpose of this Bitcoin compared to securitized, like maybe companies stuff? Why is there this like companies behind what they do? So understanding the fundamental is crucial before investing. So like for investor, like how much time they should put into to understand this thing. So for example, let's say there's a new investors come into Alta. So what do you suggest them to really study? How long should they study before they put in their money?
So I think number one is we're not talking about large amounts. In the past, the impression private equity is millions and millions of dollars before you can get in, right?
Yeah.
Today we're talking about $300, right? So it's about dabbling and really getting a feel of being invested in the asset class first, right? The fact that it is not as volatile as the public markets should actually give someone a chance to step back and take a break, right? And learn, right? So then a lot of research reports, as an example, NTUC Income, research reports, independent third-party ones that you can read and you get informed, right? And then you adjust your investment portfolio subsequently, right? As opposed to public markets, you put in already, you just constantly got to follow it. Your heart attack starts, right?
Okay.
Private markets is less volatile. So it's one of the reasons why during the recent public market volatility, a lot of people went into privates. But more stable. So again, not a big amount, don't do a huge amount, always diversify. And then being able to pause, subsequently reflect on allocation. Right? It's always about diversification, allocation, and looking at it as part of a portfolio and not the only asset class in your portfolio.
Okay. Well, I think that one break a bit of my there's a myth that I always thought, wow, private market is more like volatile, risky because I couldn't see, I couldn't touch it. And public market is like I can at least see what's the price right now. So in actual fact, private markets are less volatile.
Less volatile.
Whoa.
Less for sure.
Okay.
But the flip side of that same coin is that it's less liquid, right? So when you want to sell, it may not be as easy to sell, which is why with tokenization, which is why with more and more of such liquidity programs like what we did for NTUC Income, again, largest insurance company, right? So many sellers. How do we actually help them sell? That's why it's we're making progress towards that every day.
Oh, okay. So although it's a private unlisted companies in an exchange, there's liquidity provide for users to do transactions when needed. I think this is a very good value for Alta, and then I think I'll just start an account shortly.
Let's get the sign up page
for people, like for entrepreneurs that like right now like to start a business, because right now we are at ACE, and then I see a lot of entrepreneurs like to start their own like business from scratch. So what is the advice from you to them, especially at this current environment 2024, whereby money is a bit tough to get, business a little bit more challenging with a lot of AI coming in. So what is your thoughts for them?
No, I don't really give advice, right? But I think from my perspective, just want to point out interesting facts are that during difficult markets, like in 2009, or a year before the financial crisis in 2008, WhatsApp was created. So was Uber, and so was some of these more successful companies, right? And with adversity, challenging fundraising environments, you have a different breed of entrepreneurs who hopefully will solve problems that are more not relevant, but immediately value creating, right? And in doing so, I think the market, capital markets will recognize that investors are still looking for green entrepreneurs to start companies. And the AI boom is a great example, right? Yeah. What is the next wave of such companies, right? Are they solving climate change, as an example, versus they're building yet another e-commerce platform? That kind of decision-making for entrepreneurs will start to become more apparent. And I'm always guided by this framework 4 quadrant, right? That there's a difference between an artist and an entrepreneur. Artist is someone like Steve Jobs, right? Artist has many ideas, but chooses the idea that brings him or her closest to the vision. But the artist needs to find their own entrepreneur. Entrepreneur has also many ideas, but don't care about the specific idea, but likes the idea of taking risk itself. So like Richard Branson as an example, right? So they need to find each other. Artists need to find entrepreneur to back them. Entrepreneur needs to find artists, right? But the two of them cannot build business one. They need the managers and producers, right? So the manager and producer are people who are both task oriented. They want to get the outcome, but they go about the outcome differently, right? So the manager is someone that likes processes, SOP. So they're great at scaling companies from 20 persons to 100 people, right? And they get very annoyed when someone don't follow process. I'm sure you got a lot of friends like that. And then a producer is someone who also wants to get the task accomplished, but the common thing is that, they turn up next day at the office, then you ask them, where did you go last night? They say, don't ask, right? But they will get a job done. So that's a producer. And so those two will need to find the artists and entrepreneurs and vice versa. So now, knowing this framework, for the new person who's thinking about starting their own company, you realize that actually I can't do it myself. If I'm an artist and if I'm an entrepreneur and my manager, producer, and it becomes more interesting.
Are you more artist or entrepreneur?
I think I started out as mostly, as I mentioned, so optimism and naivety as an entrepreneur. But then I quickly realized that maybe with age, with family, right? Risk for the sake of risk itself is not for me. So to me, this whole journey has been a journey of self-discovery, knowing what drives myself and what I wake up for. But also being honest with myself. The idea of risk itself is not great. No investor wants to invest in early companies. They only want to invest in companies that make money. That's a fact. If I could choose one bucket, I think I'm still more of a artist plus producer as opposed to a manager and entrepreneur.
So the more missionary guy.
Yeah.
So thanks again, Kelvin.
Thank
Thanks for agreeing with this. And then, so this is really a great interview with you. And then I really learned a lot, especially on alternative investment space. Let's share this space to more people and then allow people to invest in different perspective or different spectrum of assets. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelvin.